I grew up in Australia in the 1960s and 70s. There were lots of World War II veterans. Indeed, there were still plenty of First World War veterans around, and the houses were full of stuff. And so I just got intrigued by the photographs of young men in uniform that were on top of my grandparents' piano or on the mantelpiece. I just really enjoyed having things around. A lot of people would be appalled by the clutter of my life, but I thrive on it. It's interesting. I had a group of students, was guiding them around the Western Front a year or so ago. They were from the outskirts of Newcastle, New South Wales, and one of the people in the group said, my great-grandfather died on the Western Front, and my father had always wanted to visit his headstone. And we found the grave, and we had a little wreath that the grandmother had woven. And the girl had grown up with stories about her great-grandfather through the eyes of her grandmother, who was very elderly. And I guess that had coloured her impressions. And so when she suddenly is standing there next to a headstone, and the man's age is 27, suddenly she realises that war isn't about old men on Anzac Day. Well, it is about old men on Anzac Day, but they represent the loss of the youth of our nation. By the end of 1918, we had 60,000 dead. 340,000 Australians had served overseas, and that's out of a population of less than 5 million. So the war reached into every home in Australia during the Great War. And for a generation afterwards, there were people dying of war-caused injuries. There were people living with the traumas of what they had lived through on the Western Front or at Gallipoli. And I think that it's really important to remember that 2 generations of Australians went to world wars, and they were barely more than children at the time that they went off on these great adventures, because in 1914 they genuinely believed it was going to be a great adventure.